Africa, the cradle of civilization, one of the most mysterious places on Earth. I've wanted to visit here since I first started reading Tarzan comic books as a kid. Oh, I've been to Egypt several times, but it's just not the same. Here, it's wild, it's fascinating, and it's high time I made the trip. I'm Paul Cater Deaton, and this expedition takes us to Kenya and Zanzibar. We land in Nairobi. The bags are collected, and the officials seem satisfied that my papers are in order, so the gear is loaded into the van, and we're off to the city of Diani on the Indian Ocean. The first thing we notice is that there are monkeys everywhere. Blue monkeys keep mostly to the ground. Babies cling to many of the females, while the males go around casing the joint. This monkey business is carefully scrutinized by silvery-cheeked hornbills up in the trees. The beautiful colobus monkeys are more arboreal than their cousins below, and seem far more laid back. They laze about up in the canopy, taking the time now and then to preen, have a manicure, or give their tails a bit of a fluff and puff. But soon our thoughts turn toward the sea, and no, we don't want to go windsurfing. And we certainly don't need to check emails while riding camels down the beach. We have the urge to submerge. We hike across expansive, beautiful beaches to get to the boats for a short ride to the dive sites. We roll in and discover that the diving here is everything we'd heard about and hoped for. The reefs here are magnificent and comprise hard and soft corals in almost equal measure. Anemones are plentiful, populated by families that automatically know when and which way to turn in order to face the whims of the surging waters. Some of the marine life comes out to greet us as we survey the seascape. Others go about their business. A pair of lionfish nonchalantly chills in a snow globe of hatchlings. Sometimes you come across one of those holy grail shots, like this purple leaf scorpionfish. A ghost pipefish leads us on a merry chase up the reef, until we finally have to break off pursuit and head back to the boat. Thanks to the largesse of a friend, we set up shop in a private villa near Watamu for a night. and a rooftop bar and dining area with a kick-ass view. I know that the sentence, "I could totally live here," is something I always say, but this time, I really mean it. One of the main reasons we've come to Watamu is to visit the Maida Creek Mangrove Restoration Project and the Watamu Marine Park and Preserve. A large grassroots effort to restore wetlands and mangrove lagoons has gained a foothold here, and they are doing a remarkable job. Propagules are gathered and planted, some by human hands, and some by natural propagation. Vast root systems help to protect shorelines from high tides and storm surge. And this group has an enviable success rate. Dixon, our guide, tells us about the mangrove whelks, the tiny shells that wash up from the sea.
The young ones, they get swept with the tide until to this place. But the young ones, usually they feed on the ground. So on the ground, there's also a microalgae. But the big ones, they eat some dead leaves of the mangroves.
We also meet this little fiddler crab, apparently the Maida Creek arm wrestling champ. Dixon leads us to the dancing bridge that leads into the grove. This place is particularly favored by conservationists and bird watchers. Down the road is the Getty Ruins historical site and the remains of a centuries-old mosque. This place is straight out of Indiana Jones. But he wouldn't have liked it here, because snakes. Like mambas, spitting cobras, and pythons. The tradition of early morning alarm calls continues, and we rise to catch another flight. This time to the fabled Maasai Mara on the northern edge of the Serengeti National Park. Hakuna Matata was a thing here way before it was made famous in The Lion King. There's a lot to cover in the short time we have here, so we get to it early. Luckily, the art of roasting coffee began in Ethiopia just to the north, so we're fortified for the journey. One afternoon, at the invitation of their chief, Mr. Zarua, we visit a Maasai village. A ceremonial antelope horn is blown. Danson hands it to me, so I give it a go. Wow.
It's harder than it looks.
Dizzy Gillespie never had it so good. Thank you. Thank you. The horn is blown again, by a local pro this time, and most of the adults of the village emerge from behind one of the huts. We are regaled by a tribal dance for almost a half hour. This may be considered a destination now, but it's the ancestral home of these people. We're honored and proud to be here. These are farmers who tend their cattle by day and close them up inside the manyatta at night. They also make carvings and intricate jewelry and other items made of beads. These are sold outside the village, helping the villagers pay for food and other necessities. The chief has invited us into his hut. Called boma, they're made with a mixture of mud, straw, and cow dung. It's the most simple of abodes, with shelving for food and utensils, and a fire pit in the middle for cooking. All of the kids sleep in this little bed. The jumping dance known as adumu is basically the art of catching air. Adumu actually means to jump up and down, and the tradition goes back for hundreds of generations. It's normally performed at special occasions like weddings, religious rites, and cultural events. We happen to be part of two of those today, as a bridal shower is being celebrated for one of the local women. We pay our respects as we leave the village. We end the day at a rhino sanctuary, arriving just as these gentle giants retreat for their afternoon siesta. Not the most action-packed shots, but gratifying nonetheless. These are among the last of their kind. The repugnant combination of superstition and greed has caused all but a few of them to be killed because there are those who think that ground-up rhino horns make them more virile. But these two are well cared for and defended by armed rangers. They'll sleep easy tonight. The Mara had been very dry for months, but that would soon change. On our way to inspect another camp, it started coming down hard, and it got worse by the minute. Although the rain was quite welcome here, the rivers have now swollen such that we have to spend an extra 4 hours getting around them and back to camp. Upon arrival, we find that the water level in the Talek River has also gotten quite high. Life in the Mara can be pretty intense, and can also be pretty tense. I close the mosquito net around me, and I'm out shortly after the lights. Again, we are up before dawn for yet another flight. But this one's not in an airplane. We are welcomed by our captain, Mervyn D'Souza, and his crew. He lights up the burners and we have liftoff. Had we come here in September or October, this place would have been covered by huge herds of everything from wildebeests to zebras. But we're here in late March. The great herds are still in the southern Serengeti of Tanzania, where many of them are giving birth. In a few months, the great migration will begin as the herds make their dramatic river crossings and head to the greener pastures of the Maasai Mara.
There's a line on a map that says Kenya and Tanzania, but the ecosystem, the Serengeti and the Mara is the same ecosystem. And this is the northern point of that whole ecosystem. So all that happens when this grass grows, those animals come here and they get squeezed into a smaller area. They get squeezed in. And that's when they get here in their millions. They eat the grass, October they go back and they spread out in the Serengeti. I think this side of this ecosystem is about 1,600 square kilometers, where the Serengeti is 16,000 square kilometers, 10 times the size.
As always, Thompson's gazelles are seen everywhere. Topies run off at the sound of the burner coming on. For a while, we skim along just a few meters off the ground. Another balloon is about to join us. One of the good things about being here in off-season is that we have plenty of airspace to ourselves. That means fewer Land Rovers, too. Otherwise, this pride of lions would be surrounded by them. We glide over the site where our breakfast is being prepared.
We have some coffee! Coffee!
We'll be there in about a half hour. As we approach our landing zone, we're treated to some incredible sightings. Beginning with this family of elephants. Warthogs stop for a moment to inspect these giants and then immediately scamper off.
A lot of tourists come here and they ask the locals.
I've waited for this moment all my life.
That's pretty cool, isn't it? Look at all the babies. Mommy, what's going on?
Another great find is this huge bull hippo. Mervyn estimates its weight to be close to 2 tons. But nature calls, as nature will, and he's about to get rid of a little bit of it.
Because the females don't walk alone.
In an example of animal behavior that I've never seen before, the stubby little tail flutters back and forth as though the big guy is intentionally distributing fertilizer, which I suppose he is. And speaking of relieving oneself in the wild, this was a popular stop after we dismounted after several cups of coffee and about 90 minutes in a balloon.
So welcome everybody.
We arrive at the coolest food truck in the Serengeti, just in time for breakfast. Just after breakfast, the lions we saw from the air passed right by us on their way west. The cubs lead the way. But Mama's on overwatch, not far behind. By the looks of his torn lip, this street fighter's been in more than a few scrapes. You don't mess with Mufasa. We've reached the final day of our time on the Mara. It's going to be hard to leave this place, but we have to in about an hour. We say kwaheri to our hosts, pile back into the Land Rover, and arrive at Okiombo airstrip just in time to board our flight. A herd of giraffes has wandered close to the runway, so rangers are posted to make sure that they don't collide with the planes.
Oh, it's just really comfy. I don't know. Oh my.
We arrive at the domestic terminal in Nairobi and transfer to international for yet another flight. This one's taking us to Zanzibar, birthplace of Farouk Bulsara. Don't recognize the name? That's probably because he changed it to Freddie Mercury. The next time we come here, I hope to take more time to get to know this remarkable island, but this time it's all about eat, sleep, and dive. The main inspiration behind this whole trip was a study that was published by the Wildlife Conservation Society a few years back. The focus area was near here, off the coast of Kenya and Tanzania, where corals and other marine life are not only healthy, but thriving. According to Dr. Tim McClanahan, author of the study and lead coral scientist at the WCS, it's a small but vibrant basin of marine biodiversity. The study shows that while warming waters may devastate surrounding reefs, this area could become an incredibly important sanctuary where marine species big and small can aggregate, finding refuge from climate change. If well protected, this key transboundary marine ecosystem will remain a jewel of biodiversity for the entire East African coast. Researchers hope to locate, identify, and ultimately protect such coral sanctuaries so that they can give these systems a fighting chance. But alas, this hopeful news may be short-lived. There are plans for coastal development, including a port and a new oil pipeline in northern Tanzania. Combined with continued unsustainable fishing by local and international fleets, these waters remain under threat. Unfortunately, these days it's a tough sell, but this region could continue to provide immense value as a global tourism destination, a hotspot for biodiversity, and a critical source of sustainably derived food and cultural heritage for generations to come. For now, we focus on the positive as we dive day and night on several coral reefs. There's a lot going on down here. This little one zigzags up the reef and looks as though it's not flipping a single fin. Like the ghost pipefish back in Kenya, this goes on for quite a while. An emperor angel struts its colorful stuff. A coral head looks like it's moving. Then we realize it's not coral at all, but one of the original masters of camouflage, the octopus. Like most of our favorite dive sites in Southeast Asia, these reefs are also loaded with anemones. The gregarious little fish that live in and around them are mostly lumped into the clownfish category. They are classic symbionts. A layer of external mucus protects them from the stinging arms of the anemones. In turn, the stinging cells, called nematocysts, cling to the mucus and protect the little fish against most predators. The layer appears to be 3 or 4 times thicker than that of related fish that don't inhabit anemones. A puffer passes by. It swims away as we pause to inspect a scorpionfish. Nearby, another one waits for lunch. We see a few of these on pretty much every dive. A sea cucumber demonstrates a different dining style as it hoovers the seafloor. This one seems to have a lip lock on a coral to keep it from floating off in the surge. And there are holy grail shots in Zanzibar too. This yellow leaf scorpionfish does a fair job of hiding in plain sight. It's a fitting find for our final full day in Africa. In The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Sean Connery plays Alan Quatermain, and he delivers one of my favorite movie lines ever. "This is Africa, dear boy. Sweating is what we do." And man, is he right. I'm in Mombasa Airport. This is the third of 4 airports that it's going to take to get me back to the States after a really, really exciting journey. And I'm schwitzing like a wildebeest. Are you kidding me? But it was well worth it. We got a lot done. We went diving off the coast of Kenya. We went to the Maasai Mara and flew in a hot air balloon. And then we went diving in Zanzibar, the childhood home of Freddie Mercury. I didn't see him, but I recommend this trip for the stout of heart and legs to match, because there's a lot of schlepping around you got to do. So, until next time, I'm Paul Cater Deaton, and I'll see you under the bubbles, or maybe under a balloon.